Alright, so we're back again, and now what we have our pot of water, 10 cups of water, and our black-eyed peas. We've rinsed them. In fact, they've kind of dried out in the time while we're waiting for the water to boil. So what you're going to do now is take them off, put in your black-eyed peas, don't let it burn, stir them a little bit. And now what we have to do is we have to wait for it to get up to a rapid boil again. Shouldn't take it long. I've got it on high heat. Give that a minute. Come on, beans, get to boiling. Well, like I say, watch pot never boils, so I will let you guys watch it while I take a minute here. I'll probably speed this part up. I mean, you might be able to see it already, but it's starting to want to boil. But I need to get it up to a boil first. Now what you're going to do is, in case you don't want to wait and fast forward and go back and fast forward and go back. Anyways, once you get up to a rapid boil, then you're going to reduce the heat, get it down to a low simmer heat after that. You just want the rapid boil to get the initial heat, it's been heated up. Then you're going to lower the heat down to about a simmer. And you're going to let it slowly simmer for 15 to 20 minutes. And around the 15-minute mark is when I do my next step, which is sautéing some of our other ingredients. So, I don't know, you might be able to see it. It's kind of bubbling a little bit there. Not quite a rapid boil, but that's kind of the idea. You want those across the surface more. So, don't want to burn these. I think I'm going to count that as a rapid boil at this point. Only because we're going to lower the heat anyways at this point. So, yep, that's a rapid boil. I think it qualifies. So I'm going to lower my heat down to about a simmer because I don't want it boiling over. Cover it up, and I'm going to let that go for another 15 minutes, and then I'm going to do my next step. I'll see you back for that. Bye. Alright, now what I've done is I've moved our black-eyed peas into the pot at the back. And dropping our duck fat a little bit more. And now we're going to add our onions and garlic. That'll be the first one we add. Got that heated up evenly. Okay. A little stir stick. Wood would be better, but it would absorb some of the flavors more. I like nylon. I'm going to cook this up. I'm going to cook this for about 2 minutes by itself, and then we're going to add the celery to it. Be able to see, you might not. Some of these are just starting to get a light bit of brown to it, so I'm going to add my celery. And since I'm cooking everything, I'm going to add my spices. This is my cayenne powder, my thyme, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and an ingredient I was going to keep secret, but I'll let you know, it's all spice. Now these have been going for a little bit over 5 minutes actually, but that's okay, they haven't burned. Just want to give them a nice slight of cooking. Now the reason I use the allspice is, to me, I have a little bit of a sweet tooth. And it adds this vaguely cinnamony, nutmeggy sweetness to it that is definitely not going to be overpowering. Alright, so that's cooked up long enough. Now we'll take it, set it to the side, and we'll come back when the peas have been cooking for a grand total of 30 minutes as they've been boiling, so in about 10 more minutes. Alright, bye. So at this point, our peas have been cooking for a solid 30 minutes. You can see they start to, some of them will lose their shells, or hulls, not really shells. Give you an idea. That's what they start to look like. And we take the cover off, they're definitely going to smell like peas. In fact, the whole house will smell like them if you have cooked them with the cover off, so make sure you had the cover on. Right. Now, this time I was good, I didn't overboil anything, so I didn't have to make a big mess on my stove like I sometimes do. So at this point, what you're going to do, you keep your heat up, so you store these heated, because what you're going to do now is you're going to add the remainder of your ingredients. First up, our celery and onions and garlic. And like I said, I did use, well actually I used 6 cloves, not 1. And that got all our spices inside of the mix. Our duck. And we'll mix that up. I mix as I go. Some people add it all at once and then mix. I don't like doing that. If you do, well, cook the way you want to cook. Next, I mentioned going out and getting your cubed ham. This is a standard cubed ham. There's nothing fancy to it. It's not smoked, it's just ham. So, bust it up. Don't get in any trouble. I won't show the name. And add it. Now, the nice thing is, it's almost like they knew I was going to do this. So this package is actually 1 pound of ham, which is how much I wanted, so I'm okay. And again, I said I like to mix it up as I go. Now at this point, I'm going to turn my heat up a little bit because my ham is kind of cool, and I need to get this to boiling. So I turn my heat up. And I'm not going to add my carrots yet. Well, you know what? I might as well. You would want to go ahead and add your carrots now. I'm going to do the same. I've got this heating up, so it'll be okay. Okay. Now, again, you don't have to use carrots in this recipe if you don't want to. I just happen to like carrots. So I add my carrots. And I could have chopped them up smaller for this. Maybe cut those little coins in half, but this will do. This will do, pig. This will do. So now we have that going. We're moving towards boiling again. And since we're doing that, I will take you over to the next stage of our adventure. Now, if this is all you're going to do, if you're not going to can this, all you would do at this point is put your lid back on, get it heated up, and you're going to let it simmer for another 30 minutes, and then it would be done. Now what I'm going to be doing is canning it. So I want to get the temperature up in order to hot jar this. And that's what I'm going to move on to next. My soup is still heating back to boiling, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is, while I'm waiting for that, and I think it'll be there pretty quickly, so I'm just going to introduce a few of the things that I have here. Basically, if you don't know it already, this is a wide mouth funnel. Very useful for getting your soups. You can get, the narrow mouth doesn't work as well, so you want to use this one. Next, I've got my jars. As you can tell, I actually have 10 pint jars here, and they're all wide mouth. I prefer wide mouth jars for any kind of soups. You can use a narrow mouth, but I prefer the wide mouth. Next thing, I have my jar grabber. This is so that you don't have to try and reach in boiling water. And the magnetic lid stick. There's a small pot in the back here. That's where my lids are simmering right now, so they'll be sterilized. All these jars were sterilized earlier. And I have the large pressure cooker. Pressure cooker is full of boiling water at the moment. Now I'm going to need to turn the heat up on that a little bit because I've had to take the lid off. I'm going to have to turn the heat up on that a bit. So I had to take the lid off. I want that water staying nice and hot. In your hot water, in your pressure cooker, it's never a bad idea to go ahead and drop in a couple tablespoons of white vinegar. It seems to prevent the scale from building up on the jars. And that little bit of scale on the outside of the jars won't actually hurt anything. But it's kind of unsightly. You get a cloudy glass look. And the problem with that is you then have to either clean it off afterwards, or it's going to be hard to tell just by looking at your jars to make sure they haven't gone bad. You want to have that nice clean glass so that you can look inside of the jar and make sure nothing's gone bad. To show you what I mean, I'll grab a jar here something I cooked up before. Oh, let's see. Oh, that'll do. Now this is a 1.5 pint jar, but change of focus. You can see through glass. It's nice and clear. You can see that no mold has built up, but if it had, you would be able to see it through the glass, which is why you want that nice, put a couple tablespoons of vinegar inside the water. Our soup is boiling. In fact, I'll take you over and let you have a look at it, because those of you who are going to do your own cooking, you're just going to let it simmer away for another 30 minutes. Those of us who are jarring it, you want to jar it now. You don't want to cook another 30 minutes, because you're going to cook it in a pressure cooker for about an hour. So I'm actually going to turn off my soup heat, grab my first jar, preferably burning my fingers off. That would be bad. Toss in our funnel, and we're going to start filling. And actually, before I put on this first band, what I want to do is look around and verify there's no food on the jar, on the rim of any of the jars. If there's any food on there, it's going to prevent the band from sealing. Now if that happens, you don't have to throw out the jar or anything, but you won't be able to keep it for canning purposes. And set it down, center it, take your band lid. This is your lid, this is your band. Put on your band and screw it down finger tight. Now at this point, because I'm already got my water heated up, I'm going to drop this in. And our first jar's in the pot. Now, by the way, when you're screwing these on, these are just finger tight. Because what's going to happen is, while they're in the pot, they're going to be expanding and heating and boiling. Some of the gas that's currently, actually quite a bit of the gas, that's currently above the soup is going to vent. And if you have this screwed on so tight that it can't vent, it will find a way out, which generally means the glass will break. And then you've pressure, and by the way, everything else inside the pot will be fine. All you'll have done is, while you were pressuring and sterilizing the jars, you would have been stewing all of it inside of this soup. And even if you take off the bands and do your best to clean it, basically your jars are going to smell like this soup forever. Until you possibly run them through a dishwasher full of food. Now, because I filled my pressure cooker with water, almost, and had it boiling, it now turns out that I've got too much water inside of it. I had it already sterilized. Your pot had been boiling for all this time. Well, that's wonderful. I'm going to heat it up to boiling for another hour. It's going to still be nice and sterile anyways. Now, one thing I want to cover here is what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be heating this water up to a point that it has 15 pounds of pressure. And the reason I'm doing that is this is considered definitely considered a low acid food. So, in order to make sure that it's sterilized to a sufficient degree, it needs to be hotter than if it was a high acid food. In fact, high acid foods, you can simply do this inside of a water bath, depending on the type of food that you're doing. Tomato sauces, really jams and jellies. Personally, I go for the better safe than sorry. I know a lot of recipes will tell me get it up to 10 pounds of pressure, and I've still taken them up to 15. Which basically means sometimes I've overcooked things. Now, I originally know I said I wasn't going to tell you how long I was going to do this for. However, I'm putting this qualifier here right now. First of all, if you have a pressure canner, I'm pretty much assuming you're an adult. There aren't too many 12-year-olds running around with a pressure canner. So, if you're an adult and you choose to follow this recipe, you are entirely on your own. As far as I know, this recipe has not been confirmed by the USDA or anyone else who could even remotely call themselves an authority on pressure canning. I certainly don't attempt to say I'm an authority on pressure canning. In fact, I pretty much just started, but I don't know. A lot of people tell me I'm doing pretty good at it, have a knack, I guess. Basically, I went from making pickles to making soup, and chili, and spaghetti sauce, jams and jellies. Although my jams and jellies didn't turn out that well. They didn't gel properly. Not all of them. Alright. As you can tell, I'm out of jars. However, I've got jars in there. So, what we're going to do now is take our lid and put it on. Lock it down, and you may be able to hear it, you may not, but what we're going to do now is wait for it to start venting steam. Because once it starts venting steam, which will come through here, it's got a little bit coming out now, but not quite enough. Once it starts venting steam, then it has to vent for 10 minutes to sterilize the inside. So I know it's basically purged the air that was in there that I let in and whatever was on the bottom of this lid when I put it back down. Once it purges that, then I let it get up to temperature by placing the weights on it, which will stop the escape of steam. Now, so you know, this is the 5 pound. That is a 10 pound. And now it's a 15 pound. And putting that on that will then let it start building up the pressure. This one also has a gauge. I like to use both in case my gauge has gone wonky. The weight is the weight. So, now we're going to let it build up to the temperature. Alright, with the timer complete, we can drop on our weighted stack, and it will start building up pressure, and once the pressure is built, then we can start our next timer for 75 minutes. But it has to get the pressure first. Alright, hour and 15 minutes has gone by. So turn off the heat. We'll wait for it to cool down. Once the pressure is dropped to 0, we'll take off the weight, verify the pressure is actually at 0. Take off the lid, pull the jars out, set them on the counter where they cool overnight. Make sure they seal. If they haven't sealed, if the lid is popped open, then we just toss it in the refrigerator and eat it within the next day or two. Alright, so I'm not going to do a video of me taking jars out of the can, so I think that'll finish it up. Hope you enjoyed it. If you try the recipe, I hope you like it. If you don't, well, don't eat it a second time. Give you an idea how much I made. I filled 10 1-pint jars and had about 4 spoonfuls after that left over. So, basically 10 pint jars. Alright, bye.